Rested?
Very much so.
Did you have a nice Ramadan?
I did. I think I lost some weight.
Well, that's always good. Um, I have a friend that's Muslim that says, "Don't stop now, guys. Keep fasting."
Well, there's a reason for that. You get
Uh,
extra spiritual bonus points if you do 10 extra days.
are you? Wait a minute. Are you telling me Allah is giving out extra credit?
You get we have that. We have extra credit in Islam.
Wow.
I've been worshiping the wrong God.
That's why they don't tell you about.
Good evening, everyone. I'm your host, Jason Miles, and welcome to another episode of This is Revolution Podcast. Thank you all so much for your patience as we were having major technical difficulties here in my native land of Mexico. I'm sure a lot of you are excited. Tonight marks the return of my co-host, my homie, my dog, Pascal Robert from his Ramadan rest. Before we start, if you're new to the channel, please hit like. Don't forget to hit subscribe and the notification bell so you are alerted whenever we go live, because we are constantly adding new shows and doing cross streams with other channels. Speaking of new shows, one show will be back that was on hiatus, and that is Frat Guy Friday with Pascal Robert and his good frat brother Jeff Kennedy. Actually, he's not a frat brother. He's just a fellow black fratter. Is this going to be the week that Pascal does his step routine on air? I'm not sure. But to witness it, there's only one way. You have to tune in, you have to like, you have to subscribe, and you have to hit that notifications bell. If you're enjoying what we do here on TIR and want access to our post-show champagne rooms like we're going to do tonight, we're going to be doing a call-in tonight. If you're a patron, you already know what we're going to be talking about. We want to hear from you. For as little as $3 a month or $30 for the year, it can all be yours. Champagne rooms past and present. You can join us for movie nights, and also you can be part of the live audience for the Pascal Robert hosted Mau Mau Hour. Speaking of Pascal Robert, let me bring in the man of the hour, the man you've all been waiting for, the Pascal Robert.
Peace and greetings to the audience. Peace and greetings to the chat. Peace and greetings, Jason Miles. Eid Mubarak to the believers in the Muslim community who fasted the month of Ramadan. And may the Almighty bless your fast and gives you success in this life and the next. Ameen.
Oh, all Muslims are from New York? Because you just said, I know what I mean.
I said no. I said
Nah, me. I'll up in this piece. Now, me. Speaking of the quintessential New Yorker, please give it up for show producer extraordinaire. She's been putting together so many of these shows. M. Toussaint.
Hello. Quintessential New Yorker, and he's not here.
You are an essential worker. Not
I'm
me.
walking over here. I'm walking
Not me.
here.
I get the shit slapped out of me to see a Muslim dude. Nah, I mean.
Isn't there a podcast with that name?
Oh, Jesus. It sounds like it'd be horrible.
That's the Lord Jamal's podcast.
It sounds like it would be horrible.
Oh.
Look,
Brand Nubian was the joint back
then. Great. Look, I will put on any of those songs from that first record. I'll put on anything from the second record with Punk Step Up to Get Beat Down. But man, when Lord Jamar gets to talking on them interviews,
he follows me on Twitter. I like Lord Jamar, man.
He's been denying COVID with him.
No, I mean he's a very New York brother, man. He's a very proletarian New York City cat.
Speaking of the proletariat, we have Dylan Rodriguez in the chat, professor from UC Riverside.
Yo, Dylan is in the chat.
Dylan's in the chat, man. Dylan came in the chat talking about yelling at people for not having no Filipinos on the wall. Dylan came
hold on.
Talking about, man, fuck Don Lemmon, fuck Tucker Carlson. Like, damn, Dylan, you came in like Ice Cube in 1991.
Dylan Rodriguez is on the bugging out character from Do the Right Thing vibe. Come here, get no brothers on the wall. Get no brothers on the wall. Yo, Sam, come no brothers on the wall. Where you at? You Sam.
You got what I mean?
No brothers on the wall. Italian pizzeria. You want brothers in your wall? Build your own pizzeria.
Actually, I think Dylan is from the East Coast, all jokes aside.
Nah, man. Come on.
No, Dylan's not from he's not from the West Coast.
Dylan's Filipino, right? Or what's his name?
Yeah. Look at Dylan wrote.
Man, you know ain't no Filipinos east of California, man.
Look what Dylan wrote. He said 91 cube, not MAGA cube.
No, my brother.
No.
Dylan, you're gonna get kicked out of the chat unless you come up with a black agenda. I'm just telling
you. Hey, where is he from? He's from the DC area. I told you, man.
Wow, so they're all Filipinos east of California? Wow.
Jesus.
That's why he coming in here like bugging out. That, you know what? That's why Dylan ain't got no breakdance.
First of all, Dylan, no disrespect. My mom is a retired registered nurse. And let me tell you something. Haitian nurses are very popular in New York. And my mom used to say all the time, the only nurses that would give the Haitian nurses a run for the money were the Filipino nurses. He said they used to be so terrified of the Filipino nurses coming in to try to take their jobs. Like, these women, man.
Pascal, I think you just did a racism.
I say that to say that I have ultimate respect for Filipino nurses and the Filipino people.
You better, because half of my children will be upset with you.
Only half?
Only half.
That would be like almost more like a baker's dozen.
Baker's dozen. Only the left halves of all of them.
Baker's dozen. Dr. Claus says there's Filipinos in Ohio. I call BS.
There's Filipinos in New York.
No, there's not. No, there's not. Those are just lying Puerto Ricans. That's all that is.
No, they are not.
Dylan said Filipinos and Haitians are cousins. Yo, let me tell you something. There might be some truth to that. Don't let me do some research.
There was a boat that went from here.
Listen, if we can have Polish Haitians, we can have Filipino Haitians. I can tell you right now.
Filipino Haitians is the new way we say the N-word.
Filipino Haitians.
Again, dissing the baker's dozen of
My God.
That's what we should call them now. Like, oh man, this Filipino Haitian came over here talking all this madness.
I remember there was something I showed you guys from YouTube,
mm-hmm.
and M2 Something was like, "Oh, he's an Ethiopian Haitian." I was like,
Yeah.
Who was that? Who was that? There was somebody you were
I'm
talking
not
about.
gonna say.
Ethiopian Haitian. I was like, so is that like what, griot and injera bread? I was like, what is that?
He's unstoppable.
I can't remember what it was. Okay, well, you know what? We go off air. Hopefully you'll be reminded, Toussaint, because there was something about that. I can't remember exactly who the person was because
Good.
I can see the blackness now. It's like
Yeah.
Ethiopian Haitian. First of all, you know what kind of an arrogant bastard you have to be Ethiopian Haitian?
Kind of is. He kind of is. Betty has nice shoes.
Oh,
And he
it was
smells
one
nice.
of those. It was one of those YouTube people, right?
It was one of those YouTube people.
Yes, I am a descendant of King Solomon, and I kill all the white people. I was like, you know,
They kill all the white people.
I hope nobody expected us to do a show today. Like, I hope that's not why people are watching, because that is not happening. I lied. It
I
is
miss you guys, man. This is I'm forgetting how much fun this was, man. You know?
right.
Yeah. Getting the band back together.
Like the Blues Brothers.
Pascal left. He said, "Nobody care about you, Otis." That's what Pascal said right before Ramadan.
I care about you, Otis. Ain't nobody here to see you, Otis.
Ain't nobody here to see you. Oh, that was funny. Should we get that as a drop for the soundboard?
Ain't nobody here to see you, Otis.
That's a great sign. That's a great drop. It's a great drop.
I think that'll be the best drop. Somebody said got the band back together to save the orphanage.
Save the orphanage. Very important.
Well, I mean, Pascal's going to be dancing this Friday morning for his Frat Guy Friday.
Oh, let me confuse. Okay, number one, that is not my fraternity's hand sign. That is Jeff's fraternity hand sign. He's a member of Omega Psi Phi, also known as the Qs, and they're the ones who are called the Q Dogs. Alphas, which I am one, do not step with canes. That's actually Cedric Johnson's fraternity. They're Kappas. They step with canes. My fraternity is the oldest of the black fraternities. Please get it right.
Y'all
You're
step
the
with
oldest.
walkers?
Don't you need the canes?
That's what I was going to say.
Why you don't have no canes?
They step with walkers. We all got it all twisted.
Stepping with crutches. What's up? What's going on?
So, Pascal, thank you for clarifying, because I thought this shit, like when they go, I thought that meant like what it is.
No, man, that's actually an upside down Omega, dude. That's absolutely
Okay.
I thought it was the praying
what it
mantis.
is. Hey.
I was like, Someone said, Jimt says, lambda, Omega Mu. That's the theme song to Frat Guy Friday. It's Pascal.
Lambda.
Oh, yo, I got to shout. Dr. Claus says Cedric Johnson being a noob is low key comedy. Light skinned cat from Louisiana. What else you need to know?
Oh, got that figured out.
So what does he do? So if you don't do this, what do you do?
They're the cat. Oh, they have this diamond thing when they do with their hands. Some kind of like pimp thing that they.
Boring.
Oh, I thought they were on some white power shit.
Nah, man. First, don't be having me out here like snapping on all of these and they're like hang hand signs and everything, man.
I just want Quinn. I hope Quinn is watching, because if we can get Quinn to do something where he can put you, Jeff, and Cedric's faces on the lambdas from the end of Revenge of the Nerds,
Oh,
so
God.
they walk out, doom.
Y'all got you.
That would have been a better intro than the nice heartfelt one that Quinn put together. If we just had you guys walking.
By the way, Jeff loved that intro. Loved it. He said it's a great intro.
That's a great intro. Quinn's been killing it on the intros, man.
He has been killing it. I'm telling you.
These intros and outros are pretty awesome. But let's get on with the topic today. Is it a changing of the mainstream media guard or just new frontiers? Politico called it a media bloodbath, with Tucker Carlson citing a mutual agreement to leave Fox News, where he was the recognizable cable news, one of the most recognizable cable news pundits. It seems shocking that the king of right-wing news is gone. Also, on the rival, yet more or less frequently viewed network, Don Lemmon says he was shown the door after 17 years as maybe the biggest name on that network. Both stars left amongst rumors of misogynistic behavior on and off the set. In Lemmon's case, for example, when ex-governor of South Carolina, Nikki Haley, threw her hat in the presidential arena, Lemmon remarked she was past her prime, 51. Now, both men are part of a medium that has seen a precipitous ratings decline since the initial days of the Russian invasion into Ukraine, with CNN seeing a 61% drop in viewership. So does Lemmon's on-air rants enough to be a cost-cutting measure for a network still struggling to find a political identity in a very fractured partisan media landscape? Carlson has truly more legal woes than simply a bloated budget for Fox News. From an article in Time magazine, even after Dominion Voting Systems lawsuit against the network revealed disparaging comments the host had made against both Donald Trump and the network's own higher-ups, it's possible Carlson would have survived to issue red-faced primetime rants and print money from Murdoch World. The thing is, he's also named in a lawsuit from Abby Grossberg, his former head of booking, that includes allegations that male producers on his show created a toxic work environment replete with anti-Semitic jokes and demeaning behavior towards women. The New York Times reported that one of Grossberg's lawyers, Tanvir Ramahan, do you know that person, Pascal? Released a statement Monday framing Carlson's departure as, in part, an admission of the systemic lying, bullying, and conspiracy mongering claimed by our client. What does this all mean for these longtime faces of mainstream news? I'm sure they'll land somewhere, be it a podcast or even another network. In Carlson's case, he's pretty much been on every network. Will they just start a YouTube channel and dominate the platform? I don't have the answers to these questions, but my co-host has much to say about the matter. Pascal Robert.
Thank you, Jason Miles. And I got to say, I'll be very, very honest with you. I want to be transparent with our audience and fans and admirers and some non-admirers of the show. I have a personal animus towards Tucker Carlson, and I'll make this abundantly clear. For those you do not know, Tucker Carlson and I are proximate in age. I think he's a bit, maybe a year younger than I am. And I have been cognizant of his media presence pretty much since my college years. I know he started writing, I believe, for the Weekly Standard. There was one publication before that, and that he started his rise throughout media as a right-wing personality. One of the reasons why I have somewhat of a personal animus towards Tucker Carlson is that Tucker Carlson reminds me visually every day why Reagan baby Generation X people from my age have such crappy politics. In that he is a product of a period in which, when we grew up and are either parents or people proximate to our parents who were either baby boomers or members of the silent generation that protested in the 60s, marched, or engaged in that politics, were being considered as quote unquote corny hippies or totally relegated in terms of their insignificance in large parts of the media sphere. For example, if you guys remember that TV show that was very popular when I was a young man in the 80s called Family Ties, it's a very perfect demonstration of the kind of attitude that was conveyed through popular culture and media in America about the 60s for people who are my generation. Family Ties is about a kid who was a quote unquote young yuppie who would have been my age, who wants to go to Princeton, and his parents were painted as quote unquote hippies of the 60s. And the whole show is about how his Reaganite conservatism is so quote unquote more practical and really serious, while his parents' kind of touchy-feely career is, off the beaten path.
His dad worked for PBS on the show, remember?
Exactly. What has been reprehensible to me about Tucker Carlson his whole life is that, contrary to the belief that he's some kind of modern day version of Edward R. Murrow or William F. Buckley, this is a guy who has been failing upward in his career purely because of the fact that he is the scion of a media family and quote unquote CIA connected background that has allowed him to use his WASP privilege to rebound from every single job in media televised that he has been fired from, which is literally every televised media job he's ever had. He was fired from CNN and got clowned by Jon Stewart for wearing a bow tie, which should tell you enough. He got fired from his MSNBC, and then he created his, carnival barker media routine called the Daily Caller, and then he fell to Fox News, and only in the age of Trump, in the post-Obama era, where the intellectual dumbing down of American media had become so bad, could this carnival barker be considered the truth teller to the American right wing? If I see one more person, whether from the right or the left, who tells me that Tucker Carlson was the new version of Gil Noble for the white man, simply because he was telling people about everything that we on the left who consume online alternative media see daily all the time without being impressed for, because he was telling you stuff that we ignored Jimmy Dore for saying. All of a sudden now he is a rock star in the consciousness of a bunch of people who frankly didn't start having left politics until they got disenchanted with Barack Obama. So the larger point I'm trying to convey is that when Tucker Carlson got whacked from the job of CNN, I was thrilled, because the larger project of Tucker Carlson is not to be an anti-capitalist. It's not to be an anti-imperialist. The only reason Tucker Carlson gives audience to radical left or perceived radical left content is because Tucker Carlson realizes what people who are on the real radical left understand all the time. There is no more effective challenge to liberals and Democrats than from the radical left. Tucker Carlson wasn't doing that because he believes their politics. Tucker Carlson wasn't doing that because he wanted to give Americans a political education. Tucker Carlson was doing that because he was using leftists to humiliate Democrats. That's it. They were being used as a foil and a pawn for that MAGA churd to further his right-wing politics and further his ultimate right-wing politics, which is to protect the sanctity of Anglo-American white maledom from the hordes of the brown and black people. Because that's the kind, and it's not about him being conservative, because I can ideologically respect a conservative. I was telling a friend of mine who was on the left that I grew up being a fan of William F. Buckley, as racist as he was. Why? Because he was an intellectual whose arguments were very well constructed, and you had to be intellectually savvy to deconstruct his arguments.
You just liked his voice. Just be honest.
Yes, he was.
Al, you just liked his voice.
Yes, yes, he was a racist, but he didn't lead his intellectual discourse with his racism and his racist ideology. He led it with the intellectual salience of his arguments that you had to challenge. That's why someone like James Baldwin was able to confront him on the face of his politics and not get into the deluge of racialisms. Tucker Carlson is nothing but an Ivy League adjacent, downwardly mobile Klansman in a nice Brooks Brothers suit. All right? He is repugnant to me, and I don't give a damn how many Glenn Greenwald episodes or appearances he does that entices folk who haven't seen that kind of discourse before. So,
Well, did you want to tell me how you really feel about it and not leave these feelings all bottled up?
So you're pretty lukewarm on the whole thing, right?
Indifferent, if you will.
Agnostic.
I
No
get it.
opinion.
I get it. I
Sit
get
this
it.
one
in
out.
terms of
I
Don
understand
Lemon,
the phone call now. Yeah.
Don Lemon, by the way, in terms of Don Lemon is getting whacked because CNN is moving to the right in terms of their coverage, because right-wing media, because the country is becoming more conservative in terms of the waning of the Biden administration. So they are pivoting to the right, and his kind of like racial whiny type of discourse in politics is losing favor, and his kind of back and forth with his hosts in the morning is unappealing. His ratings are not going up, and he's not making the money, so he's got to go.
I mean, the channel itself, CNN, has seen a big ratings decline for some time. I mean, during the Obama administration, this is when you really see the rise of Fox News, also cable news in general during the Iraq War in Afghanistan. But with CNN, they tried to be pretty neutral, inverted quotes, especially during Obama, where Fox News really doubled down. That's where you get things like the terrorist fist bump. Oh my God, how dare he wear a tan suit? If you remember those days of Fox News, and that's when they really become the cable news giant, and CNN has been chasing them ever since. Also, CNN, went a route where they started to try to have non-news programming. I remember that every time you turn it on, there was always a jail episode. I forget what that behind bars thing they had was called. Do you remember it, Toussaint?
I don't. But why is your non-news programming about jails? All right.
I believe that's where we got the clip from the Booty Warrior. It was from CNN.
It writes itself.
So, is Don Lemon's departure, in your opinion, kind of the perfect way for them to cut some fat, if you will? Because also Don Lemon released a Twitter statement, and was before he even released the statement, I guess higher ups at CNN had asked to negotiate with him, and he didn't even want to deal with that, and he just released a statement and said he was out. So CNN actually disagrees with the whole he was fired.
So what do they say? He quit?
Mm-hmm.
What was the notice that he gave that he resigned?
He put a Twitter statement out
before. Okay, this is the correct me. Educate me, please, is a better word I'm saying. Did he put the Twitter statement out before the media publicly stated he was no longer working at CNN?
No, media did what they did. They followed the tweets, which just sounds kind of gross to say, but they followed his Twitter when he was complaining. But CNN, the network, wanted to talk to him about some things that had happened. And Don Lemon was like, nope, I'm just going to go to social media. It was one of those, my fans won't have this. So
hold on. Jason, you're always a good source. Like this is authenticated.
I always know some BS. This is just what's been.
No. I'm saying you're usually very accurate in when you convey these kind of things.
It's been reported. Time is reporting it as the story, and there was somewhere else. I think AP reported it as the story as well.
So you telling me that Don Lemon had a Twitter hissy fit, and as a consequence, made it sound like he was quitting because he was frustrated, and that when his employer saw that, they were like, "Well, we're just going to fire him anyway." Now
they disagree with the firing framework.
They're saying he actionably resigned.
They're trying to say that. He's saying he was fired. They say we didn't even get a chance to fire him because he put out a Twitter statement saying that he was fired before we even talked to him.
This sounds like a strategic kind of chess game to deal with potential liability. So it's tomato.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, and I kind of assume you might be true. If you're correct, I'm not saying you're lying because I think you're telling.
I'm just reading what is being reported.
Right.
I wasn't.
If that is correct, that is like that's worse than like the Melissa Harris Perry fumble at MSNBC, man. Remember that went down? She kind of like caused herself sabotage as well.
It's an interesting moment for a lot of these people, in my opinion, because most of these cats go where the money is, and TV is still the dominant platform. And our friend Daniel Bessner was recently on Bill Maher's show, on HBO, and going on Bill Maher was bigger than any podcast he was going to go on.
No doubt.
Even if he was going to go on Joe Rogan, those numbers skyrocketed more on Bill Maher. For a guy that the people watching had no idea who he was.
Right.
How many people are reading, the National Review? And this isn't to crap on Danny. I mean, Danny's a someone I call a friend, and actually, Danny was part of our first live show. Great guy, and I like. I'm actually a fan of his work. It is influential on even some of my stuff. So I'm not saying this to try to come down on him. It's just television is a dominant platform. But can you take your time in front of a camera, a la Joe Rogan, right? A guy that never was really on hit shows. I mean, who really remembers news radio? Fear Factor was almost, I don't even know what kind of entertainment you would call it. Silly. Who would take the host of a show like that seriously? Then he goes and gets a job with UFC, and it's not like he's ever been a fighter. This is a comedian who trains, but still, it's a comedian that has gotten a job as a commentator for combat sports, and then turns that into having probably one of the largest podcasts in America.
Right. So are you making the argument that's like being the biggest fish in a goldfish bowl?
Being on television for these guys, they can pivot to something else. It's just, do they want to make that pivot? And it's going to be a more powerful pivot, right? Because there's no one telling them what they can and can't say. But also, you get help when you have a station like that.
Right. Well, this is why I think that Don Lemon, right? I think that Don Lemon is going to be able to capitulate his exit from CNN into a political career not a political career, but a media career in some other venue. Don Lemon is liked by certain segments of the Black political class. Don Lemon his identity politics on sexual orientation make him appealable to a wider range of spectrums than if he was just a simple heterosexual Black male. Let's be fundamentally transparent. And he's going to be able to parlay that into I wouldn't be surprised if that he ends up someone like a Tamron Hall kind of deal, who, by the way, I liked Tamron Hall when she was at MSNBC. I also thought she was kind of cute, by the way. And I thought she was very, very talented. And I was very pissed off when they got rid of her. I thought she was one of the most talented up-and-coming Black media personalities they had across the board. And then when she got the axe for the conservative, I was like, that's kind of jacked up. But she's been to kind of be able to rebound on her own. But I think that Don Lemon is going to be able to rebound in some kind of capacity. He has enough of, the status quo kind of charm, contrary to what, my fellow Floridian Rick Ross believes by offering Don Lemon a job working at his Wingstop. I don't think that is necessarily.
No, he didn't. Did he really?
He did on a video on his Instagram. He offered Don Lemon a job working at his Wingstop.
Someone says, I wonder if Camden Sowens will take Tucker Carlson's place.
Let me tell you something. That person read my mind. That person read. You know why they read my mind? Mm-hmm. Because it wouldn't be strategically illogical for CNN if they really are serious about this right-wing pivot for media numbers.
It's not a right-wing pivot. So in reading, so there's a new program director, and the new program director wants to be overly centrist.
Okay, so to the right of where they were before?
I think from what I'm reading into what they're doing, they want to get away from what was the programming at CNN. I don't know if they want to move to the right because it's a little late, but I think they want to be a little more reactionary, but without being racist, which is kind of a hard line to toe, right?
You know what CNN used to be called back in my day?
Coon Network Negroes.
The Clinton News Network. How much more centrist do you need to get?
I like mine better.
Oh, of course you do.
They were known as the Clinton News Network. They're not trying to move. They already are centrist. They're corporate media. They already are centrist. They want to move to a less identity politics contentious right. In other words, they want to be Fox News without calling, state legislatures sharecroppers because of their Southern accent, like Tucker Carlson did less than a month ago.
It's a little different because the Obama time for CNN, they are the good guys in news media, if you will, and Fox News is the over the top villains. And with no Hillary Clinton, with no Barack Obama, with no identities to defend, they can't even really defend Kamala Harris because she doesn't really do or say anything. So, CNN is just lost. They never had that to be, a heel type station. I mean, I think all of this ultimately stuff is kayfabe, right? This is all pro wrestling. When you watch these shows and you hear the way they talk, it all sounds like, when wrestlers are talking to the announcer doing there's a name for it. I can't think off the top of my head, like the pitches for the matches. That's what it all sounds like to me when you hear these people talk. But CNN never really had the characters in their network that even MSNBC had.
Right. Well, MSNBC came late. MSNBC developed the personality really in the era of Obama, starting with 2000. I used to watch. I'm embarrassed to say it. I used to watch MSNBC very consistently early on in the early aughts.
He was a big Rachel Maddow fan, dude. She used to work with Chuck D.
I remember Rachel Maddow when she actually had a perceived left-wing radio show. I remember when all those people who were on MSNBC were on Air America. I used to listen to Air America when I used to drive to work all the time. I was
Mark Maron, Chuck D, Sam, and
what was the name of the guy who Big Ed, the guy who died? Yeah, I called his show. I called in on his show one time.
He was on Russia Today after he got booted from MSNBC.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Big Eddie. I used to like Big Eddie a lot. And remember we talked about this when we had Sam Cedar on the show, which a lot of people were like, "Oh my God, yeah, Sam Cedar." All these people again who became left after they loved Obama. Is that in 2004, Rachel Maddow on Air America was the left.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Ed Schultz. Yeah, that's the guy's name. Yeah, Rachel Maddow was very, very left. Yeah.
What people don't realize is that in 2004, the only people who were the left were kind of like burnout from the 60s that would stick around either in academia or, the guys who were my mentors at Black Agenda Report. It was pretty much like that was it. There was no young burgeoning that we had been coming out of this Clintonian neoliberalism and the global war on terror conservatism. Everyone hated Bush, but there was no anti-capitalist. What was considered anti-imperialism was like the war in Iraq is horrible. That's it. So that's one of the reasons why I laugh when I see these people now who are self-righteous with their sectarian pronunciations about how they're like, third level chess players of the XYZ Kung Fu matrix of Trotskyism, their left politics. I was like, dude, for all intents and purposes, if you were able to vote in 2008, you You were sucking Obama's kneecaps up until 2012, most of them.
Well, there was a real youth movement with the Obama campaign, that I think nobody captures better than the first or second season of the Boondocks, where they have that nut ride in Obama.
Yeah, I love that song.
It really captures that moment, I think, of excitement people had and quote unquote hope. And I do get mad sometimes when people try to act a little self-righteous, like, oh, I was on that train of people that didn't like Obama. It's like, that was a very small minority of people.
Yo, let me show you now. First of all, let me show you right now. That was about not only a full diner, that was a diner's table worth of people.
Yeah. Someone's in the chat right now that said I voted for Nader in 08. The people that voted for Nader in 08 or even Nader in 2000, I have respect for that perspective because, again, they're being honest about where their politics were at that time. You know what I mean?
Right.
And we have to remember where we were during that time, what the anti-war movement looked like, which we had some of the biggest protests this country's ever seen pre-Obama, and nothing really came of it. And the left looks different. And I talk about this a lot on the show, and I know we all talk about it. I don't think much has even changed from the 90s other than iconography, and because personal branding in the age of social media is such a massive deal right now. This is always about consumer choices for people. It's not really about politics. I mean, cities will burn over the death of an unarmed citizen, especially if we can put a racial component to it. But nothing really happens when the conditions that cause over-policing in an area are increased, i.e. cuts to SNAP benefits that affect almost 50 million Americans. Nobody knocked over a garbage can for that. You know what I mean?
Very eloquently stated and salient point, Jason Miles.
That's part of my new piece coming out of Sublation Media this week.
Well, I think we've been chugging along on these two losers long enough. I think we should pivot to the much more important and salient.
Yeah. Let me ask you that question real quick. As time is running out. Also in the news, we see the departure of singer, actor, and most importantly, civil rights icon Harry Belafonte. Pascal, you had much to say on the passing of I almost said Harry Belafonte. The darker version.
Let me tell you something.
What's the other actor that passed away last year?
Sidney Poitier.
Sidney Poitier. What do you have to say about Harry Belafonte? Because there's a recent Netflix documentary about Black film where they tried to position Harry Belafonte as antithetical to Sidney Poitier, and Poitier is almost like a quote unquote Uncle Tom, and Belafonte is the real deal.
I was talking to Torre about this morning. I'm very, very frustrated and angered about some of the takes and reactions people have towards the death of Sidney Poitier, more so Sidney Poitier than Harry Belafonte. Because Harry Belafonte is being given a much more kind of gregarious, affectionate salutation in his death than Sidney. The notion that Sidney Poitier was somehow some kind of Uncle Tom is absolutely absurd in the context of his politics, considering that both of these men were shaped in terms of their politics from the old left media establishment of the Black communists and socialists of the 30s and 40s. Both of them were literally the mentees of Paul Robeson. They were both profoundly shaped by the politics of Paul Robeson. As a matter of fact, Harry Belafonte said they used to call Paul Robeson the Sparrow. That he was, because he was just like the bird that brought life to everyone in that time. And the notion that their politics were somewhat quote unquote Uncle Tomish because they were risking their lives in the traditional civil rights movement at a time when not even the majority, the very small percentages of Black people were participating in the movement at that time, and they were putting their livelihoods as media personalities. Let's not forget that Harry Belafonte was almost personally responsible for getting John F. Kennedy to defend Martin Luther King when he was incarcerated in 1960 in this, I believe it was Georgia, and help him get out of jail. Okay, so this notion that somehow Sidney Poitier was some kind of quote unquote Uncle Tom because he represented a certain type of persona in film. Let's put this in proper context, which is something we try to do with media in American society, is that American popular culture does not exist in a vacuum or a prism divorced from global political realities. What does that mean? The media of the 60s, post World War II, is shaped in a Cold War context. And as we've said before, one of the agendas of the Cold War, because of the increased popularity of Soviet communism in the global South, i.e., Africa, India, and Latin America, and other countries newly becoming independent, in order to protect the capacity of American capitalism to penetrate those markets without having to compete with global Soviet socialism and communism, there was an understanding by the American ruling class that one of the reasons, not the only reason, one of the reasons why Jim Crow had to be made obsolete was because it interfered with the global perception of America as a beacon of democracy in the global South, in the wake of the way America was being perceived because of the Soviets and the communists who were using America's racism as a media vehicle to say people in Africa, listen, look at these Americans, look how they treat their Black people. Part of that process, back to how this works in film, is that you go from Stepin Fetchit and Moms Mabley to the noble, striving Black Sidney Poitier and Harry Belafonte, because that whole pivot is part of a politics of incorporating a more humane, a more socially honorable vision of Black life into America to improve the image of America abroad and to give voice in the consciousness of Americans' mind to the rectitude of the civil rights struggle. So basically, it was a strategy.
Also, people love those movies. I mean, let's not get it twisted. Sidney Poitier isn't there just because he speaks so well and he's so well spoken. I mean, he was a box office moneymaker.
I love those movies. I love those movies as well. Mm-hmm. And just because those men at that time, just like Quincy Jones was being used for jazz diplomacy to go around the world to spread jazz for the same reason, just like Louis Armstrong was sent to the Katanga province in Congo when Patrice Lumumba was assassinated for the same purpose. America was using Black, brown, and even white personalities for empire and capitalism strategically, but that does not mean that the people who were being used were willing dupes and did not have intentions of improving the conditions of their people while they were serving empire.
Do you think Harry Belafonte was a fan of Blaxploitation?
Well, that's a very complicated question, because some people will say, well, look at the movies he did from 75 to 77 with Sidney Poitier. Isn't that a form of Blaxploitation? You know,
I don't know, man. Those are pretty good with Bill Cosby and wasn't it all of them? Let's Do It Again.
Let's Do It Again, and Let's Do It Again was one of them, and then there was another one there was like three of them. Big fan.
It was like Richard Pryor was in it too.
Yeah,
Uptown Saturday Night.
Saturday Night. Yeah,
Let's Do It Again.
I mean, I think those guys are also doing the movies that are popular in the era, and they're still trying to give some dignity to those roles. I mean, In the research that I did for the last video essay that's up, same as it ever was, uh, there was a lot of pushback around 73. Around the time you have the rise of the black middle class, which kind of also speaks to why you have all these movies, because you have this thing called teenagers, and black teenagers had never really been marketed to. And a lot of the quote unquote black exploitation movies kind of hit with these, suburban teens that finally had money.
And also, would go to the theater instead of burning down buildings.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you have these suburban teenagers that finally have spending dollars, and you have theaters left over in some black neighborhoods where not everybody's left for, the suburbs yet in 73. And there's movies showing with black people in them, and they're running to go see them, but not all of them. But I wanted to get your take on that, if you thought that Poitier was a fan of that, because I think a lot of those actors that were in those movies, especially prominent figures, like Pam Grier, her career comes to almost a standstill after the 70s, where she's relegated to a lot of part roles in some horrible B movies she's in the 80s. And it almost feels like, and I hate to say this, it just makes me feel gross to say that Tarantino did kind of a masterful job at resurrecting her with Jackie Brown.
Yeah, that's problematic for a variety of reasons. But let's also not forget, by the way, that both Sidney Poitier and Harry Belafonte attended the Gary Convention in '72.
Mm-hmm.
Which is like, the whole kind of like, black nationalist kind of convention that kicks off the birth of the post-civil rights black political class. So these guys were very much in the milieu of that, like you were saying, black is beautiful, like I love my people, like black, nation time, it's nation time. That politics resonated and still resonates with many, but it resonated with that generation of black folk, and it carried many of them into the 70s. And I think that Belafonte and Sidney Poitier tried to make their contribution to that form of film with their spin on it, without being some of the more kind of pejorative depictions that they might have found distasteful. But at the same time, they're still media personalities, man. They got to work. They weren't like big time billionaires in the 70s. These cats still got to work. They still got to put food on the table and whatnot. So at the same time, there's a lot of, well-trained black actors who were getting work at the time as well. But to in the last few minutes we have left, I was very, very, I was somewhat devastated today by the death of Harry Belafonte. I had a very good conversation with friend of show and friend in real life, Torrey Reed, for about 45 minutes, an hour, talking about how not only Sidney Poitier, but how Harry Belafonte represented a certain kind of perception of dignity of black masculinity that frankly did not become replicated in subsequent iterations of black media and black popular culture. And that for our generation, a lot of Generation X black men, we really looked up to those cats, because for some of us, they reminded us of, like, some of our uncles, some of our fathers. Like, I know for me, my father's generation, my father loved Sidney Poitier and Harry Belafonte. Harry Belafonte, by the way, for those who do not know, was a huge admirer of Haiti and Haitian history. Has 2 or 3 songs. He has one song in Haitian Creole called Merci Bonjour, thank you God. He has another song called IT Chérie. Huge fan and admirer of Haitian history and the Haitian Revolution. Sidney Poitier, as a matter of fact, I've read somewhere that his father has Haitian lineage. So for me, as a child of the Caribbean, coming from Haiti, these guys were huge, man. I remember when I was a kid, I used to ask my dad, is Sidney Poitier Haitian? He was like, nah, he's not Haitian. He's from Bahamas. And I was like, because I was like, they were very much celebrated in the early generations of Haitian immigrants that I was raised by when I was coming up, because these were the films as Caribbean immigrants that they were seeing in the theaters when they were coming to the country.
Mm.
So having, Harry Belafonte's, I believe his mother or one of his parents is from Jamaica, Sidney Poitier's from Bahamas, and they are celebrating their Caribbean culture as well. Harry Belafonte has albums doing calypso. Some people say he actually reinvigorated calypso music, and they were very much celebrating that part of their background. And one of the things that I was contemplating and reflecting on is how much, regardless of what critiques we may have of Black Power, the importance of international Pan-Africanism, supporting Black anti-imperialism, anti-capitalism, how much that kind of oppositional politics, which frankly I still have significant affection for, regardless of its various faults and over fetishization that's problematic. My politics are the birth child of those politics in many ways. That in the wake of today's banal, neoliberal, reactionary, Black diaspora wars discourse, seeing Harry Belafonte die today, this reminded me of just how absolutely a shit show Black politics domestically in the United States has become in the wake of where it has been in the various points in the 20th century, going back to the 30s, going back to the early 20th century.
What you're saying basically is Kanye West is no Harry Belafonte.
Well, hang on.
Kanye West is not even a Tay, not even beyond.
He's not the Tay. He's the Yay. Let me just read this passage to you, and I'd like to get your response, both of you. Harry Belafonte criticized Jay-Z and Beyonce in 2012 for having turned their quote unquote turned their back on social responsibility. Give me Bruce Springsteen, and now you're talking. I really think he's Black. Jay-Z responded, "You're this civil rights activist, and you just bigged up the white guy against me in the white media. That's just the wrong way to go about it."
That's what Jay-Z responded with?
Yes.
Well, they had Black slave catchers too.
Wow. Got him.
I mean, what the hell does that mean?
Damn.
Hey, that's your boy.
Not my boy.
That's your boy Jay-Z. Do you think we're going to be should we expect a statement from Jay-Z and Beyonce coming?
Yeah, I mean, listen, Jason, we've been doing this for pretty much 3 years now. I think people realize that my level of contempt for contemporary popular culture, Black or otherwise, really just stems from this, and I shouldn't just say listen, Black politics is a reflection of the shit show of American politics. Period. We shouldn't just make it seem like Black people are pathological and all their politics are horrible. All of American politics is a turd stain right about now, and going down the toilet overall anyway. So I mean, let me correct myself in that regard. But man, the new American capitalism is not creating the novelty of invention that it's claimed to be able to do in the media sphere. It's just, you know how many remakes of stuff that I've seen from the 70s and 80s?
Oh, okay, who was it? Ben, me and Ben were talking, right? And he said Luke Savage said this is the stripping of the copper wires in the building stage of capitalism. Damn. When it comes to what we're seeing with pop culture. And I was like, fuck, that is so real. And then we just, every time we talk about something like that, he just goes, hey, Luke Savage quote. Because you're right. Everything is being remade or rehashed. We'll put a new face on it. We'll do a Black version of it, right? You
I
like The
thought
Office?
capitalism
What
was
about The
supposed.
Black Office?
I thought capitalism was supposed to be the economic model of innovation. Like, what happened?
Give people something and they'll take it.
I mean, even The Office, it's like, how many seasons was that? Just ran it into the ground.
And they
You
just
still like
redid
it?
itself. The Office literally does itself after Steve Carell quits. They find another Michael Scott character and they just redo the whole thing over again. The fact that, this is an interesting time too, because, we were talking about the Russian horror movies a few weeks ago, or the movies in the Soviet Union. And, juxtaposing it to what America was producing with, capitalist production. Because there was such like, hey, we need to get movies out now quick, we don't give a damn. There's some gems in all of that crap because people could do whatever it is they wanted to do. Now you see it a little bit, but because I can watch what I want to watch when I want to watch it, it's almost like people don't understand, like even your social media is a reflection of what you want to see. It's not really what everyone is saying, right? Like our academic friends hit us up about some Twitter garbage with a mutual that we all have. And none of us knew about it because it just wasn't in our radar, because that wasn't our echo chamber. And that's another reason why you see so many remakes of things and why some things last so long. Like the TV show Always Sunny in Philadelphia is going on its 15th season.
That's a teenager.
What TV shows, what programs that weren't news or animated, and even those came to an end, can you remember lasting that long?
Law and Order, SV Unit, Law and Order.
But that again, that happens in this moment.
Sure.
It goes from 99 to just SVU, which is the one that's withstood the test of time, which kind of speaks to a fascination with true crime, which is a whole other episode we can get into. But the fact that these shows have lasted so long, no one really talks about that. Why is Marvel and Star Wars so dominant? Because these are pop culture icons from another era.
Why hasn't there been a domestic form of black music created in 40 years besides hip hop?
You have different kinds of hip hop.
I'm old enough to remember that when there were literally like 3 or 4 different simultaneous types of black music existing at one time.
I mean, why isn't there really regional forms of music?
We talk about, me and Tori talk about it all the time. We're old enough to remember when there was a regional black music, and hip hop was just a regional form of black music.
So, I mean, it's a sad moment. I hate to end the show on such a sad note, but it's a sad moment. We've gone on long enough. Jason, don't watch the soaps. Well, soaps, someone says I don't watch soaps. Soaps are also kind of a thing of the past. I don't know which soap operas are still on.
Oh, they're on. I went to the doctor's office recently, and there's
only a
on.
handful. If you remember, there was way more soaps. If you really want to get into like acting and why you talk about black stuff, why there's not a lot of like black American actors, soap operas for years have been a training ground. I had this great conversation with Ben's brother and his brother's wife. And they were like, look, soaps aren't where they used to be as many. And there's places like Australia where soaps are still a big deal. Why do you think you're getting so many Australian actors in the States? Because they're actually trained. In the UK, all these guys are theater trained.
Exactly.
These aren't rappers turned actors like the States.
Right.
So who would you rather deal with? Someone that knows how to hit a mark? Yeah, well, you just want to deal with someone that knows how to hit a mark and do their lines, or do you want to deal with someone that, had a big Twitter following?
Well, of course.
And authentic grittiness.
And this goes back again to the banality of the stupid, black diaspora wars that we have today that, are being sponsored by these hashtag horseshitters.
Someone in the chat asked if I watched Filipino soap operas. Yes, I have.
I like the idea that somewhere in the UK is some black British dude who can do Pascal's Haitian, New York, Miami accent perfectly.
Can we just admit before we go that Idris Elba, that Luther thing that he did, the last Luther thing, is kind of awesome on Netflix.
I haven't watched the new one yet. Is it good?
Ooh.
I used to love that show.
That's an
Can we just
endorsement.
admit that those two, him and the other guy who has the last name I can't pronounce, are kind of killing it?
I mean, no one was talking about this diaspora wars nonsense when everyone thought Idris Elba was a Black American in
From Baltimore.
Why?
We thought he was really a gangster from Baltimore. Gritty realness.
See, Idris Elba look at you all tough and then ask for some chips and pick
I
up.
mean,
a
were you
French
crying
fries
when
the whole day.
Denzel, when Denzel Washington was playing Steve Biko in Crying Freedom? You were like, no, he's Black American. How can he do that?
Dude, me and you and like 8 other Black people that watched way too much Cosby Show know Cry Freedom.
Cry Freedom.
Toussaint, you ever seen Cry Freedom? Exactly.
No.
You've never seen Cry Freedom?
I haven't seen a lot of movies.
No one.
We could be here all day.
No one watching this show, maybe Dylan Rodriguez watching this show, has seen Cry Freedom.
I sent y'all something in the chat no one responded to. And I wanted to age y'all. I said, who in the chat is too young to remember this show? And it was the opening from an old show from that was in syndication in the 70s. Who in the chat and who here remembers Hee Haw?
Oh, I hella remember Hee Haw. That was filmed in Bakersfield.
Bakersfield, California?
Bakersfield, California is Nashville West.
I wouldn't have known that. I learned something new.
Massive country scene in Bakersfield. Yep.
Green Acres, Beverly Hillbillies.
How do you remember that, Tucson? You're too young to remember that stuff.
Came in syndication. Petticoat Junction. Junction.
Oh, I forgot. Nickelodeon. Bro,
nah, just regular TV. That was what came on regular TV.
Maud. I was a kid. Mary Tyler Moore. That's my life. That's my life right there. Every time I go to a street corner, I take my hat off and I throw it in the air.
You know, it's funny she says that and not what's the Black woman that had a TV show for a minute? Diane Carroll. Yes. Why aren't you Diane Carroll?
Well, just one was more indelible on me than the other one.
You cannot destroy the master's house with the master's chitlins.
Jesus.
It's a really interesting TikTok.
Shirley over here talking about my favorite show is Maude.
Shirley. Oh, shout out to Shirley, man. Shirley, long time no see. Glad to see you.
And then there's Maude. And then there's Maude.
Shirley said you missed the joke. Shirley said that me and Jason should do a remake of Buck and the Preacher.
I saw that. I saw that.
Look, yeah. Let's try not to look.
All kinds of white fans of the show were like, Google's Buck and the Preacher.
Just trying to figure out, is it Cry Freedom or Crying Freeman? It is not the anime, and it's not the live action, but it's Cry Freedom, the story of Steve Biko, told by Kevin Kline.
We actually have to do another blaxploitation movie night because
I found a good one too.
He laid Dynamite.
Why don't we do?
You would have liked the last one.
In honor of Sidney Poitier and Harry Belafonte?
We're not watching Porgy and Bess.
No, not Porgy and Bess. Why don't we do a Uptown Saturday Night or Let's Do It Again?
Let's do it again.
What's the one that has Sidney, Bill Cosby, and I don't want to trigger too many people with Bill Cosby. Sidney, Bill Cosby, and Harry Belafonte.
You know what? As much as I would like to watch one of those, I think people would really get mad about Bill Cosby, and then we got to get a bunch of. I don't want to trigger folk with Bill Cosby. Like, you're supporting a rape. Like, just ignore all the work we've done about like calling them out on different things and just hang their hat on that one thing.
Oh, how about this? What do we think about showing a Bruce Lee movie for movie night? No,
you're just all over the place.
You are all over the place.
I'm thinking. My mind is in the 70s, man.
Go watch Four Lions. That's the
Four
last
Lions
movie
was
we
good.
saw. It was
It was
very
good.
good. Very
There was a fun movie I wanted to do for movie night, and I can't remember what it was.
Four Lines. What was Four Lines about?
We'll tell you off air. We'll tell you off air.
good.
Tucson, are you ready for
Okay.
Tucson and Pascal? Are you guys ready for the champagne room?
You didn't send the link, homie.
I paid my phone bill. I paid it. So let's do
Let's
this.
do it again. I don't need to send the link.
Oh, can we just sign on to
Ooh.
the teams?
So Pascal and Tucson are going to talk about their worst dating experiences ever, and we are going to open up the phone lines to hear.
Oh, no, don't make me do that, bro. Don't make me do that, bro.
Pascal doesn't want to admit what he did.
No. I have a very
to make it
I have
the
a
worst.
horrible dating experience. It's so not PG at all, bro.
Well, that's why we're going to the champagne
What
room.
did
This is
you
the
do?
X-rated champagne room.
Pascal once got busy in a Burger King
Oh,
Still not
sick
the
with
worst.
it. Straight gangster Mac. Eat up all your candy and your licorice.
Don't say the next one. Don't say
Pascal was going to say in the 69.
He said Pascal was playing in the snow.
Oh my God. I am not. We can't say what Born Sinner just said. Oh my God.
Whoa.
Come on,
See
Born
these
Sinner.
boomers?
Really, man?
If you guys are
Please.
listening to the show on the audio only podcast, sometimes you just have to watch it live. I know it's hard to get, as I get to see where all the views come from all over the world and definitely different time zones. But man, it is definitely worth your time to watch it live and leave a comment. Also, leave comments if you disagree with anything you have to say. If you want to add something to the legacy of Harry Belafonte, the legacy of Don Lemmon, say it in the comments. Let us know how you really feel.
Zoomers got no
Oh,
show.
Mr. P says Pascal trusted a big butt and a smile.
Way too many times.
Oh,
that's what you never do.
Never trust a big butt and a smile. I mean, BBD warned you.
Yo, a big butt and a frown can get me sometimes. Shit.
Jeez Louise. I don't want to know what that's about. Oh my gosh. It's a blank face emoji and Pascal. I don't want to know.
Okay. Are you guys ready to go to the champagne room to open up the phone lines?
Open up the phone lines.
Okay. We are
Belafonte.